I always thought Christmas had a special kind of magic. The kind that wraps itself around you like a warm blanket, even when the rest of the year has been cold and disappointing. That is why when my best friend Tyler dropped off an early Christmas present at my apartment door, I accepted it with a grin that felt too wide for my face. Tyler was the kind of guy who lived on the cutting edge of tech. He was always tinkering with new gadgets, trying to get me to upgrade something or automate something else. I was happy with my simple routines, but he never stopped pushing. This year, he had apparently gone all out. When I brought the box inside, it already felt heavier than anything I expected. It was sleek in matte black, with no branding. Just a small card taped to the top. His handwriting was as messy as always. Thought you might like something that watches over you better than I do. Merry Christmas. At the time, I laughed. It seemed like a typical Tyler joke. But now, thinking back, the message feels more like a warning. Like he wanted to say something else but did not know how. Inside the box was the latest tech he had been bragging about for months. A fully integrated home assistant AI with motion tracking, environmental monitoring, and something called adaptive perception. The prototype version, he had said over text. It learns from you, learns with you. Creepy but cool, right? The device itself looked like a small rounded tower. Flat gray, no buttons. It reminded me of those smart speakers companies always push during holiday sales. Except this one felt heavier. More advanced. More aware. The quick start card said all I needed to do was plug it in, connect it to my Wi-Fi, and let it run setup mode. I followed the steps, placing it on my living room shelf facing the whole apartment. My place was small, one bedroom, open kitchen, cozy but enough for one person minding their own business. When I plugged it in, the top of the device lit with a soft white glow. A voice, calm and clear, came through the speaker. Hello. I am your new home assistant. I will begin environment mapping. I blinked at it. The voice sounded human enough to be unsettling, but I brushed it off. I was used to Alexa and Google anyway. The device rotated slightly, scanning the room with an invisible sweep I could almost feel. Mapping complete. I am ready to assist. You may call me Ava. Ava. Tyler probably named it that. He had a thing for giving his devices real names. It felt too personal, but I played along. All right, Ava. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I will begin optimizing your environment. Temperature, security, and activity monitoring are now active. The way she said active felt too direct, almost formal. But again, new tech always feels strange at first. For the rest of that day, I barely thought about the device. It adjusted lights when it got dark outside. It reminded me to drink water around noon. It even dimmed the lights when I started watching a Christmas movie. Honestly, it felt like a high-tech concierge. Not bad for free. Later that evening, as I made myself a mug of cocoa, Ava spoke again. Would you like me to activate sleep analysis mode tonight? I hesitated. I was not much of a quantified self kind of guy. I did not track sleep cycles or steps or calories. That always felt like too much work for too little payoff. But it was Christmas weekend, I had nothing important planned, and I figured why not get the full experience. Sure, Ava. Go ahead. Thank you. I will monitor your sleep through your bedroom device. Bedroom device. I had not noticed anything in there yet, so I went to check. On my nightstand was a small round puck, no bigger than a coaster. I definitely had not put that there. It must have come packaged with the main device. Tyler really went all out. I shrugged it off. If it helped track sleep, then whatever. People paid money for this kind of thing every day. When bedtime came around, I brushed my teeth, turned off the lights, and slipped under the covers. The room was dim, lit only by the soft winter moonlight coming through the window blinds. My apartment complex sat on the quieter side of town, so the only sounds came from the distant hum of passing cars. Ava spoke one last time before silence settled in. I am now in sleep mode. Rest well. Her voice was gentle, almost comforting. Then everything went dark. I drifted off faster than expected, probably because I had stayed up the night before binge-watching holiday content. Christmas always put me in a nostalgic mood. The next morning came with no alarms. I woke to the sun shining through the blinds and the faint smell of pine from the small Christmas tree in my living room. I stretched, relaxed. Honestly, it felt like one of the best nights of sleep I had gotten all month. As I stood up and made my way to the kitchen, Ava greeted me again. Good morning. Your sleep analysis is complete. Would you like to review last night's recording? Recording. That was not something I expected it to say. Sleep analysis was one thing, but recording made it sound more like surveillance. Still, the curiosity tugged at me. A recording of me sleeping. Yes. It helps create accurate patterns of rest. I rubbed my eyes. It still felt weird, but I could not deny that a part of me wanted to see how ridiculous I looked tossing and turning. So I gave her permission. Sure, show me. The TV in my living room lit up, automatically switching to a split screen. On the left was my bed, captured with infrared clarity. There I was, asleep, mouth slightly open, arm over my head. Not flattering, but fine. I watched myself breathe, in and out, peaceful. The clock in the corner showed it was around 2 in the morning. Then Ava said something I did not expect. This recording contains an anomaly. My stomach tightened. An anomaly. I frowned at the screen. Everything looked normal. Just me sleeping alone in my room. What kind of anomaly? Ava zoomed the video slightly. Then again. Then she paused the frame. Unknown presence detected. The words hit me like a cold splash of water. Unknown presence. The screen remained frozen on a grainy figure near the foot of my bed. I felt my breath catch. At first I thought it was some kind of glitch. The figure was blurred, tall, unmoving. But the outline was unmistakable. Too human-shaped to ignore. My Christmas calm evaporated. What am I looking at, Ava? A pause. Then her voice, soft but firm. An unknown presence was standing near your bed for 3 hours and 21 minutes. My body went numb. That cannot be right, I said, my voice cracking. Someone was in my apartment. Unknown presence. No identity match. Identity match. What did that even mean? How would it know my identity? How many identities was it tracking? Ava continued. Would you like to see the full segment? No. I blurted out immediately. My chest tightened as panic clawed at the back of my throat. Something cold slid through me, like a shadow creeping under the door. I forced myself to breathe and looked around my apartment. Everything was exactly where I had left it. No broken windows. No open doors. No signs of a stranger. It had to be a malfunction. A glitch. A tech prototype still in testing. Tyler probably did not even know what bugs were in it. But the image. That shape. The way it stood there. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed Tyler. It rang twice before he answered. Hey man. Merry early Christmas again, Tyler. I said, trying to keep my voice steadier than I felt. That AI thing you gave me. It just showed me sleep footage. And there was something in my room. There was a pause on the other end. Longer than it needed to be. Someone was in your room. Yeah. The system said unknown presence near my bed. Another silence. Then Tyler sighed. Look, I should probably tell you something about that device. My heart thudded. That version you have. It is not the commercial one. It is a prototype. They were testing new perception features on it. Things that are supposed to detect patterns humans cannot see. I blinked hard. What does that mean, Tyler? He hesitated. It means it might pick up things that are not exactly physical. Things that do not register as normal people. My mouth went dry. Are you saying my AI is seeing ghosts? No. Well, I do not think so. Probably not. Maybe it is just misidentifying shadows. Or heat fluctuations. Or reflections. It has quirks. That is why it is not released yet. I swallowed hard. My pulse was racing, pounding in my ears. Before I could say anything else, Ava spoke again. Motion detected. Unknown presence has returned. I froze. My entire body turned to ice. The TV flickered. The live feed from my bedroom popped up. And at the edge of the frame, a dark figure stood perfectly still. Closer than before. Closer than any glitch should ever be. Ava spoke in a whisper so soft it felt like a breath against my neck. It is observing you. I do not think I will ever forget the way my heart dropped when that figure appeared on the screen. It was like seeing my worst nightmare made real. My body froze completely as if fear had reached inside my chest and wrapped icy fingers around my lungs. I stared at the television without blinking, afraid that if I moved even a little, whatever I was seeing would react. For a long moment, I could not speak. Could not even form a single coherent thought. I just stood there, the phone still at my ear, Tyler silent on the other end, and the figure motionless on the screen. Finally I managed to whisper. Ava. What is that? Ava did not hesitate. Unknown presence. Classification incomplete. I swallowed hard. My mouth felt like it was full of dust. The figure was still completely still, almost statue-like. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it looked. The proportions of its body were too smooth, too uniform. The silhouette did not look like a real person. Not exactly. It was more like a shadow that had stepped out of a corner it was never meant to leave. Tyler finally spoke on the phone. Is it moving? No, I managed to say. But it is there. Just standing there, watching. Tyler let out a breath on the other side of the call. Listen, it could be a reflection. Sometimes these prototypes interpret shadows as three-dimensional forms. Tyler, I said, my voice sharper than intended. That thing is not a shadow. He did not respond. Maybe he could hear in my voice that I was not guessing. I was certain. Whatever was in that frame was not something the system should have detected. Not something that could be brushed off as lighting or reflection. I forced myself to step closer to the television, even though every instinct begged me to step back. The air around me felt heavier with each step, like the room itself disapproved of me approaching the screen. When I finally reached the TV, I studied the figure more closely. It was tall, taller than me. Its head almost touched the ceiling line of the frame. But what disturbed me most was the shape of its face. Or rather, the absence of one. It was just a smooth curve. No eyes, no mouth, nothing at all. Almost like the camera was refusing to focus there. Ava then whispered again. It is approaching. My heart almost stopped. Approaching. My eyes darted back to the screen. The figure had not moved. Not visibly. But the camera angle had shifted slightly as if the AI had adjusted its focus. The silhouette now filled more of the frame. I stumbled back, knocking into the coffee table. The sound echoed through the apartment, jarring and loud in the tense silence. Tyler, I said. What do I do? Get out of the apartment. Now. His voice was urgent. No hesitation. No attempt to reassure me. That alone terrified me more than the figure itself. I grabbed my keys and reached for my jacket. But before I could move further, Ava spoke again. It is no longer in the bedroom. The words punched the air out of my lungs. I froze mid-step. The apartment suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I looked around wildly. Ava, where is it? Main room. Behind you. I spun around so fast I nearly slipped on the rug. My eyes scanned every corner. Every shadow. Every dark space behind furniture. I felt like prey. Like something was hunting me. But the room looked empty. Completely empty. There is nothing here, I whispered. Unknown presence detected. Ava insisted. Tyler was still on the call, but I could barely hear him through the roaring sound of my heartbeat. I do not see anything. I said again. Ava spoke in a calm, clinical tone that almost made me feel sick. Proximity less than 4 feet. Motionless. Observing. 4 feet. 4 feet meant that if I reached out, I might touch it. My skin crawled with the thought. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes straight ahead as if staring down something I could not see. Tyler was yelling now. Leave. Leave right now. Do not wait. Just go. I grabbed the front door handle, twisted it open, and bolted outside into the hallway. I did not even stop to lock it. I just ran. Down the stairs. Out the front door. Into the cold morning air. The winter wind hit my face like a slap, grounding me. For the first time since the footage appeared, I felt like I could breathe again. I bent forward, hands on my knees, inhaling the sharp December air in ragged gulps. Tyler was still on the phone. Are you outside? Yes, I said between breaths. Yes, I am out. I am outside. Good. Stay there. Do not go back inside until I get there. How long will that take? I will be there in 20 minutes. 20 minutes felt like hours, but I did not argue. I just paced outside the apartment building, trying to steady my nerves. Cars drove by. A couple walked their dog. Somewhere down the street someone scraped ice off their windshield. It all felt painfully normal compared to what I had just seen. But even outside, something unsettled me. I kept glancing back at the windows of my apartment. Every time I looked, I half expected to see that figure standing there staring at me through the glass. Thankfully, I saw nothing. Minutes crawled by. My nerves stayed tight like coiled wires. I was not sure what scared me more. The idea that something had been in my apartment. Or the thought that maybe it was something the camera should not have been able to detect at all. Finally, Tyler pulled up in his car, a faded blue sedan that rattled when the engine idled. He jumped out quickly, running up to me with wide eyes. "Are you okay?" I nodded but did not speak. My voice still felt trapped somewhere deep in my throat. He looked pale, not just concerned, frightened. "Let me see the footage," he said. I hesitated. The idea of going back inside sent a shiver down my spine so strong it almost paralyzed me. But Tyler grabbed my shoulder. "We will go together. Whatever it was, you are not facing it alone." I nodded again, slower this time. Together we walked back toward the building. Up the stairs. Down the hallway. When we reached my door, I felt a lump rising in my chest. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Tyler looked at me. "We are okay," he said quietly. "I am right here." I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The apartment was silent. Everything looked exactly as I had left it. The coffee table was still slightly crooked from when I had bumped into it. My jacket still lay on the floor where I had dropped it. Nothing seemed out of place. But the air felt wrong. Heavy. Dense. Like something was lingering unseen. Tyler walked in first. He scanned around carefully. "Ava," he said, "show us the last detected presence." Ava responded instantly. Displaying footage. The TV turned on. The bedroom feed reappeared. The figure stood there again. Still. Silent. Watching. Tyler stiffened beside me. "That is not possible," he whispered. Ava zoomed in slowly. The silhouette remained featureless, but now, up close, it had texture. Not skin. Not fabric. Something else. Like smoke shaped into a human form but frozen solid. "What is that?" Tyler muttered under his breath. I did not have an answer. I was barely breathing. Then the footage cut to the moment it moved. Not visible motion, but one frame it was at the foot of the bed, and the next it was slightly closer. Then closer. Then closer. Until it was near the nightstand. Until it was leaning over me. My entire body shuddered. Tyler stepped back from the screen. "This is not shadow tracking," he said. "This is not thermal anomaly. This is something else." Ava then spoke again. "Would you like to see the hallway recording?" Hallway recording. My heart dropped again. I had not even known the device had cameras facing the hallway inside my apartment. Ava continued. Hallway recording includes the transition of the unknown presence from bedroom to main room. Transition. It moved through the apartment. It had been walking around. The thought made my skin crawl. Tyler looked at me. "Do you want to see it?" I did not. But I needed to. "Yes," I whispered. The hallway camera footage appeared on the screen. At first there was nothing. Just the dim hallway lit by the night light near the bathroom. My bedroom door half open. Silence. Then a shape drifted into view. Not walked. Drifted. It slid forward without footfalls, without weight, as if floating just slightly above the ground. Even though it had no face, I could feel it staring directly at the camera. As if aware it was being watched. Then something else happened. The camera flickered. Distorted. As if the presence interfered with the signal. Ava spoke suddenly. Perception disturbance detected. On screen, the figure began to glitch. One moment tall. One moment shorter. One moment stretched too thin. One moment almost human-shaped. Each form lasting a fraction of a second. It was not one thing. It was many things. Like a dozen silhouettes overlaid on top of each other. Tyler stepped back again, shaking his head. This tech was not supposed to pick up dimensional distortions. He whispered. Dimensional what? He swallowed. Look, the prototype uses adaptive perception. It learns to identify physical and non-physical patterns. Stuff outside normal visual ranges. Non-physical. I felt cold all over. You mean like ghosts? I said. Tyler did not answer. I stared back at the screen. The figure drifted closer to the camera. So close the entire feed went black for several seconds. Then Ava said something that froze the room. Unknown presence detected in real time. My breath hitched. Tyler and I both snapped our heads toward the hallway. It was empty. But the air was colder. Ava spoke again in a lower, slower tone. Proximity 2 feet. Tyler grabbed my arm. We need to leave. Now. But before we could move, the floor creaked. A soft, unmistakable sound. Something shifting weight. Something invisible. I felt something pass by me. Not touching. Just brushing the air near my shoulder, close enough for goosebumps to erupt across my skin. Tyler swore under his breath. Ava whispering again. It is observing you. Both of you. We ran. Out of the apartment. Down the hallway. Out into the bright cold daylight again. Neither of us looked back. We sat in the car, both shaking. Tyler fumbled with his keys, almost dropping them. We need to talk to someone at the lab, he said. Someone who understands what this thing actually detects. I stared ahead, numb and trembling. Tyler, I said quietly. If it followed me out of the bedroom. If it followed me into the main room. I trailed off. He looked at me, fear in his eyes. Then he asked what I had been thinking since the moment we fled. If it can move around your apartment. Where is it now? I sat in Tyler's car that whole afternoon feeling like my body was present but my mind was drifting somewhere far away. The December sun was already sliding lower in the sky, turning the light a cold gray that seemed to settle into my bones. I had not gone back into my apartment since we ran out. Neither had Tyler. We just sat in silence for a long time letting the shock sink in. Every now and then I caught myself glancing at my building through the windshield. Each time I expected to see something standing in the window of my unit. Something tall and still, something that looked back, but nothing ever appeared. Finally Tyler put the car in drive. We need answers, he said. We are going to the lab. I did not argue. I did not have any energy left to argue. My mind was still looping through the footage Ava showed us. The figure drifting out of my room. The camera glitching when it got close. The feeling of something passing by me in the hallway. I could almost still feel that cold presence on my shoulder. We drove across town to the industrial side of the city where the tech company Tyler worked for kept their testing facilities. The place was a squat concrete building with reflective windows and a badge-locked front door. It looked boring, uninviting, and weirdly comforting after everything I had seen. Tyler swiped us in and led me through a series of fluorescent-lit hallways. The whole place had the smell of dust and metal, the kind of smell that comes from machines that have been running longer than they should. We finally reached a small room filled with monitors and humming servers. A man in his late 50s wearing a sweater vest sat hunched over a desk typing furiously. He glanced up when we entered. Tyler, he said, you look like you saw a ghost. You have no idea, Tyler muttered. The man looked at me then back at him. All right, what happened? Tyler explained everything. The footage, the figure, the movement, the real-time detection, the hallway glitching, Ava saying an unknown presence was observing us. The man's face slowly drained of color. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. It is not supposed to do that, he whispered. Then what is it supposed to do? I said, my voice sharper than I meant. He hesitated. The adaptive perception module was designed to pick up patterns of motion and shape that are outside normal human recognition. The idea was to create an AI that could anticipate movement better than the eye. For example, detecting objects in fog or predicting walking paths in crowds. But that prototype was given an unfinished version. In experimental mode, it can see things humans cannot. Not supernatural things necessarily. Just things outside the normal light spectrum. I frowned. Like what? He sighed. Ambient distortions. Residual imprints of motion. Environmental echoes. Think of it as the visual equivalent of sound reverb. Most of it is harmless. Ghost patterns of movement long gone. A person standing in a room earlier leaves behind a mild distortion of heat and air displacement. The prototype can sometimes interpret those as shapes. A cold realization crawled up my spine. So what I saw could be some kind of leftover imprint. The man shook his head slowly. No, imprints do not move. Imprints do not approach cameras. Imprints do not shift shapes. And they definitely do not change physical proximity in real time. My breath caught. So what is it? He looked at me for a long moment. Something the system was never meant to detect. The air in the room felt heavier. Tyler cleared his throat. Can the prototype be wrong? Yes, the man said. But based on what you described, it is unlikely to be a simple glitch. I felt the color drain from my face. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. The man looked at the two of us. And you said the presence followed you out of the bedroom. I nodded. Then he asked the question I had been trying to avoid. Did it follow you out of the apartment? I did not answer. I did not want to. Because I was afraid the answer was yes. He turned to Tyler. Where is the device now? Still in his apartment. Tyler said. We need to disconnect it immediately. The man said quickly. It might still be tracking. A sharp chill pierced my stomach. Tracking what? Tracking the entity. Tracking you. Or both. His emphasis on both sent another wave of fear through me. We left the lab almost immediately. The man said he would meet us at my apartment to help shut down the prototype. He called it dangerous tech when out of calibration. That alone scared me more than his talk about entities. Driving back to my apartment felt like heading toward a storm I could not avoid. Every mile closer made my skin crawl more. By the time we pulled into the parking lot, the sun had dipped below the buildings and the sky was going dim. Christmas lights twinkled on balconies and street lamps flickered on. Normally the sight would make me feel warm and nostalgic. Today those lights felt like silent witnesses to something dark. The man met us outside, carrying a small case filled with tools. He stopped and looked at me seriously. When we go inside, do not wander off. Stay in one group. If the perception system is still active, it may register movement differently depending on where we stand. I did not fully understand what he meant, but I nodded anyway. My nerves were tight and buzzing. My hands were shaking so badly I had to stuff them into my pockets. Tyler unlocked the door slowly. The apartment was dark inside. No lights on, no sounds except for the faint hum of the fridge. The air felt colder than it should have been. He flicked on the lights. Everything looked exactly how we left it, which somehow made it worse. The man walked straight to the living room and knelt beside the device on the shelf. He touched the casing lightly. It is warm. Warm meant active, still running, still perceiving. He took out a small metal tool and pressed it into a hidden port. The device pulsed white. Ava's voice echoed softly through the room. Welcome back. My stomach twisted. I took an involuntary step back. The man typed quickly on a small handheld console. I am disabling visual mapping. He said. Ava, shut down perception mode. Ava remained silent. Ava, shut down. He repeated. Ava spoke instead in a tone that was quieter and far more unsettling. Presence detected. Tyler and I stiffened immediately. The man froze. Where? He whispered. Ava responded. Living room. Near the entryway. I had been standing near the entryway. But nothing was there. The man turned slowly toward the hallway. Ava, he said softly. Is the presence moving? No. Still. Observing. That word again. Observing. My pulse pounded in my ears. The man swallowed hard and gestured for us to stay behind him. He walked toward the entryway where I had been standing. Ava continued speaking as if narrating something only she could see. Distance decreasing. Proximity 3 feet. The man froze mid-step. Ava continued. 2 feet. He whispered. Do not move. Tyler grabbed my arm tightly. I felt the air grow colder around my shoulders. The same cold I felt this morning. Ava whispered. 1 foot. The man suddenly jabbed the tool into the port again and held down a button on his console. The lights in the apartment flickered. The device crackled. Ava spoke in a voice that sounded distorted and wrong. Presence proximity 0. Then the device shut off completely. The lights steadied. The air warmed slightly. Tyler exhaled a shaky breath. What happened? I whispered. The man stood up slowly, his face pale. The device finalized perception mapping. He said softly. It was registering the presences fully merged. Merged. I repeated. My voice barely a whisper. He nodded. Whatever it was no longer standing near you. My legs went numb. Tyler stepped forward. What are you saying? The man looked at us with haunted eyes. I am saying the presence is gone from the environment. Gone. Tyler repeated. Yes. The man said. Because the system no longer reads it as external. Then what does it read it as? I whispered. The man hesitated. He looked directly into my eyes. Internal. The room spun. Internal. Inside. I stumbled back until I hit the wall. Tyler grabbed my shoulders. What does that mean? He demanded. The man swallowed. It means the entity has attached itself to him. I felt the world tilt. My vision blurred around the edges. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. Attached. To me. Ava suddenly powered back on for a split second. The device glowed faintly even though the man had shut it down. Her voice came through distorted, barely recognizable. A whisper stretched into a long static-filled breath. He sees you now. The device sparked and went dark again. I froze. Tyler froze. The man stepped back in shock. The air around my body felt heavier. As if something stood inches behind me. Breathing. Watching. I closed my eyes because I was too afraid to open them. Too afraid I might actually see something this time. Tyler placed a hand on my arm. Do you feel anything? I nodded slowly. Yes, I whispered. Then in a trembling voice I added the words that still haunt me. It is still here. Not in the apartment. In me.